Hey everybody, Joe here, and I'm going to try to keep this quick, a quick demonstration using one of Lightroom's new updates. And if you look underneath the histogram up here in the upper right, you can see this is all changed. All the icons have changed, and how things are organized has changed. You might see, well, where'd everything go? Well, under this thing that looks like the crop tool, it's still the crop, and it has all of the default aspect ratios and everything that you've done in the past. So this Band-Aid is now the spot removal tool. Fortunately, all the keyboard shortcuts remain the same, so even if you can just ignore these if you use the keyboard, and everything else here is the same. This is Red Eye again. I've actually never used Red Eye. Don't need it, but this is where all the fun happens, and this is the new selection grouping for making masks, and it's got some really cool new options, including an automatic select sky and the ability to select by color range and by luminance range, and it really gives you some really cool capabilities as far as masking goes. Since I'm about to head out on a trip to Monument Valley, I figured, all right, let me just bring up an image I've played with before, and so I can show you what this tool can do. First, a couple little things. We've got some soda cans or beer cans here, so let's just drag over top of that and let Lightroom do its spot removal thing. We'll get rid of this one, and it's a little bit of an odd place to select from, so I'm going to come back down into the grass to get that and hit done. Okay, great. Wait a second, I've got some spots. You see a spot right there? So again, we could use the Band-Aid tool, or remember Q and A. Q is the spot tool. A is show me the spots. Now I have the visualize turned all the way up, because then you get to see where your spots are a little bit better. So here's the one. Again, if you have that circle with the hole in the middle, that's a spot. This one, let's see, I'm not sure. Let's hit A and toggle that off. No, that's actually a cloud, even though it looks like a spot. Here's one right here. This might be one too. Let's see. Yeah, that's a spot. Get rid of that. And I'm going to turn visualize all the way up just to see if anything else shows up. And look, a couple do. Here's one right here. Not sure about this. Let's A to toggle that off. Nope, that just seems to be a feature of the cloud. And I think that's it. We've got all of the spots, so we can hit done. So we got rid of our cans in the foreground. Let's do something with the sky. And I'm going to open up the new masking panel and choose the new select sky option. And it's going to go ahead and find the sky for us automatically. Let's see how good a job it does. It does it pretty good. But if you really want to see what it's selecting, you now have options. If you see these three little buttons here, if I click on it, what I can do is say, well, show me the overlay on black and white. And in that, when you do that, you can see it's picked a little of the foreground here. You can say, show it to me on black, where you get to see just what it's selected. And you can see it's got a little bit right in here. And what you can do is subtract. So if I want to subtract, I'm just going to get a brush, and the brush works just like it did before. And I can deselect with the brush anything that's come through onto my base. And that's pretty cool. It's really getting almost Photoshop-like. In fact, in some ways, some of this stuff is actually better than the way Photoshop does. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to the normal color overlay thing, and then you can hide the overlay. So if I click on that, that hides it, and now I can do my edit. So if I want to make the sky a little more towards the blue, add a little bit more clarity, maybe a little dehaze, and actually I'm going to pull back on the saturation just a little bit, and that looks pretty good. All right, so what else can we do? There's a lot. I'm not going to cover everything the panel can do, but let's create a new mask. So let's click on up top here. It says create new mask. And this time I'm going to select by color range. So if I click on color range, it gives me an eyedropper. I want to add some life into this butte up here. So I click on there, and it finds all the things that match that color. Now, if I really want to leave the foreground alone for the time being, again, I can subtract. In this case, I'm going to use a linear gradient, and I'm going to subtract from the bottom up to about there. So I can also add to this using the eyedropper again. So if I click on Add and get color range again, I can come into the shadow parts and click in there, and that's looking pretty good. Again, let me get rid of the foreground. I should have done this part first. Let's get rid of that with our linear gradient to about there. And okay, that looks good. So let's hide that. And I'm going to bring up the saturation. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow and a little bit of magenta to bring some of the true red that's in that butte out there. Now, something else that's really cool, I'm going to hit done here, is that you can bring up the mask panel. You see your masks here, and you can turn the masks on and off. So you can see the before and after by clicking on this eyeball next to the mask, which is pretty cool. And also I can see here's with the sky not done, you can see the sky before and after. And you can also rename these. So if I want to call this one sky and I want to call this one butte, I can do that. So what else? Let's do the foreground with kind of a bit of a more normal filter. So linear gradient. So if I click on linear and I want to come up from the bottom there, again, I'm going to hide the overlay, which used to be down the bottom. Now it's in this panel. And what's wrong with it? Well, it's a little green for my liking. Let's take some of the green out. Let's add some more warmth to it. And let's add some saturation. And while we're at it, so I think I want a little bit more of red in the foreground. So I'm going to click on the color tool down in here. I'm going to pick that red, and then we're going to back off on the saturation a lot. I just wanted to add a little bit more red into that. All right, that's good. And now I'm going to create another one. And this one I'm just going to use the brush like the old-fashioned way. And I'm going to paint. Oh, I'm going to click on Auto Mask, by the way. I'm going to paint on some of these plants in the front because they've lost a little bit too much of their green. I'll add a little green to this. All right, so I'll hit O. Again, I can use the shortcuts like I've always done. I'm now going to add some green back into the plants and a little blue. And I'm going to boost the saturation. All right, the funny thing is I'm going to probably end up mostly cropping out the plants. I just wanted you to see some of the new abilities of this panel. So let's just go ahead and finish this off. So let's get the cropping tool, and I'm going to bring down from the top, and I'm going to bring up from the bottom. Yeah, I think I want more of a panoramic feel to this. And by the way, you've probably always been taught, don't put your horizon dead center. Well, there are exceptions to it. And I feel this is one of them. What's happening is we have a very flat horizon with the subject that is going up into the top half. So it kind of joins the sky and the land together. However, one thing, this piece over here on the right edge is a little too strong. It's actually drawing you because it's the darkest thing in the frame. So what I'm going to do is just crop so we just have a little bit, just enough of an upslope to cause you to roll back into the image. And then I'll hit done there. So I'm going to bring up the panel one more time. As I'm looking at the butte, I think I want a little bit more saturation in here. So let's go ahead and add more saturation just into that. And I think that's more what I'm after, plus maybe a little dehaze. Yeah, there we go. And maybe even a little clarity. And then we'll add a little exposure and contrast. Yeah, I think that looks better. Now, here's the other cool thing. Up in the masks, there's a little button for the masks panel. You can turn it off, all your masks, or individually, and you can see your before and after with and without the masks. Now, if I want to minimize it, I can click on this button and it shows me the masks. You can also drag it down into your panels on the right so it's not floating around on the screen. So let's hit done with that. And last thing, I'm just going to go ahead and add a vignette. Oh, there is one more thing I got to show you. Let's do a radial filter. Let's create a new mask because I want to show finally they fixed something that always drove me nuts. So I'm going to draw the radial, and look, the default now is inside the oval rather than outside where you had to hit invert in the past. It's about time they did that. So while I've got this live, I don't even have to hide the mask. As soon as I touch a slider and start to move it, it automatically hides the color overlay. So let me bring up the brightness so that will draw us again to the butte, and then hit done. So let's go full screen on that so we can see what we ended up with, and we have a really beautiful scene of one of the buttes. This is actually just outside of Monument Valley, looking into, this is Monument Valley back in here. But what's really cool is just with those adjustments, we started there. And with our masks and sliders, we were able to turn it into this. A lot more pop to it. I think the sky maybe has a little bit too much saturation in it. So let's go ahead and fix that. And again, the beauty is we've already got our masks all done here. So I did call one sky. Here's our sky. And I'm going to bring the saturation down in the sky a bit. Don't want it to overpower the image. I want to make it a little more, even though the sky does get super blue out here. Let's do that because I want you to focus on the butte a little bit more than the sky. So here's our image with our adjustments. And here's the original. So that's just a quick introduction to the new masking panel in Lightroom. We'll play with this more. There's more you can do with it, but I just wanted to show you that this is something new in the latest version of Lightroom, the latest update, which by the way is called version 11. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. I think you're really going to like the new masking panel. I'll see you again online soon. Bye-bye.